What's going on, everybody? It is Forrest with the Built on Blue Collar podcast. Thanks for tuning in again. This podcast is kind of just a spur-of-the-moment thing. I've got Bryan with me, our videographer, and he's in the studio. We are kind of testing out the studio. I know last podcast with Manuel, we only had one camera. Now we've got two, and we're going to try and figure out a better way to film this and light this studio. With Manuel, we were just kind of playing around. So we're still kind of in the new studio trying to figure out the new setup. So I think we've got a pretty good setup here. But yeah, so today, the point of the podcast, we're just basically going to ramble on about do's and don'ts of video, what we've seen in the industry as far as the blue-collar industry, what we've gone through with some of our clients, what we've advised them on, and then also like trends and things to look for. So we're just going to hopefully bring some knowledge and some advice and some information to you guys today, specifically in the video department. And we might break out into the regular content too, photo content and things like that, but specifically the video aspect of showing off your business. So thanks, Bryan, for coming out.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. And I think I'm going to drop the videographer title.
I know, right?
I think I'm going to pick up filmmaker,
Yeah, we can do that.
It seems like a very subjective thing, so I think I'm going to pick up filmmaker. I might as well toss the cinematographer in there too, just
right?
to
a little bit of it all.
Make the list longer.
It's kind of just something that we started saying, and we just kept saying it, so we can change it to literally anything.
Yeah, I'll take filmmaker now.
Filmmaker.
Let's go.
Bryan is our full-time filmmaker.
Full-time filmmaker.
Although that might be trademarked by that one dude, isn't it?
Maybe. We'll see.
Who cares? He can suck it.
So business and video. It's an interesting conversation actually. I think, especially something in like if we're looking at industry specific, like the blue collar industry, it is not something that is very common to see blue collar industries use video in the way that every other industry has been using them.
Yeah, and
so it's fascinating to see, or to be in my position to be someone who is very focused on the blue collar industry, and to make videos for that and trying to navigate how. and like that's always the question, is how do we use video for business? And so I guess we'll just dive into what that looks like.
Well, I mean, first off, it's like when we look at it, like all the traditional ways to advertise or show off your business in other marketplaces or other industries, they all tie to the same idea with the blue-collar world, but the problem is you have to advertise the blue-collar world in such a different way, right? So, like, the skeleton of the strategy or the purpose of the strategy when we dive into, like, the videos with our clients is typically broken down to some things that you've taught me since you've been here, and kind of a structure to it. But the fun thing is to figure out how to implement that into an industry that's never done that.
Yeah, right.
Ever.
Never. And you're also dealing with the struggles of B2B advertising, which looks a lot different than B2C, right? B2C is kind of like the standard model that started with video and started with advertising in general, right? Usually businesses always had that handshake conversation, that, oh, I trust your work because you've been working for me for a while, and we make these deals here. But B2C was the one that first initiated that whole conversation of, okay, let's talk to our clients, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk to these people. And so when you go to B2B, it's a little bit of a different ball game, right? Because now you're advertising to a business person.
Well, yeah, and then it's not like I think it's easier to advertise for like manufacturer companies or like businesses that are providing a product or a small service. Like we worked with Moss and their like heating and air division a little bit, and doing like ads for them would be fairly basic, right? Like developing something for like a local service that you're going to call on, rather than like and that's the B2C, right?
That's
a
B2C,
consumer that's like, hey, my AC system broke down, I'm going to call directly to these guys.
Exactly.
Like an advertisement on a billboard or on a video or on the radio would really be useful there. But like the second it goes to B2B for like some of our other clients like Dirt or something like that, like, okay, we're trying to send this out to developers and engineers and general contractors and things like that, and maybe even specific city municipalities might be hiring them as well. So you think, okay, well, how do we attract new business to a company like that on that side, rather than just like, okay, I need this service, for my personal life. I'm going to go look for it on Google. like there's a much different approach to like a developer looking for somebody to build their land, or a GC looking for a contractor for them to hire.
Precisely,
So,
yeah. And that's something that I had to kind of wrap my mind around when I first started with y'all. Is okay, there's a bidding system. Like
yeah.
that is a whole new ball game of how does one use video to actually make a conversion
Yeah.
through a bidding system, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that was the first thing that confused me. It still racks my brain a little bit, and there's still a lot of things that are probably still out there and available that we can find,
Yeah,
and
I
ways
think
to do that.
like the and like our slogan is limitless boundaries, right? So
Mhm.
like, especially when we look at the video aspect, there's really limitless boundaries on like where you can go with it, because especially in this case, you've got businesses like the general contractor or something like that that's going to be looking for like a low bid or some, on most of the time, right? Some of the general contractors will have project managers that don't focus on the low bid, but a lot of folks are focusing on that low bid. So it's like it's already set in stone based off of their estimating department whether or not they're getting this job or not. It doesn't stop you from bidding the project correctly or having a good relationship with your clients or anything like that. But basically, what the video aspect that we've been trying to develop is some sort of a funnel that basically takes the information that your business is trying to give out there and funnel it to the right people for the right reasons effectively. And I think like that's how it's tough too to try and explain that to clients, because like you and I will jump on sales calls with new clients all the time and they like the idea of it, but to be able to wrap their head around it on the creative side is kind of tough. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we come in, is like the creative side, and be like, okay, like let's learn as much about your business as possible so that we can figure out how to properly advertise this to other companies or other developers that, it's not a direct consumer.
Yeah, it's definitely not a direct consumer. It's another business, and not even just another business, but it's also I don't know how deep the bidding process goes, but it's a couple, it's someone or two people or three people that are directly looking at that. So how do you make sure that those folks are more influenced to kind of pick from your bid? And I think a big part of that is instead of jumping straight into the commercial or the spot in the paper or the billboards or whatever, like there is a decent amount of brand solidification you need to establish within this, especially within this type of industry. And that's the direction I've been more leaning on, is how do we make these companies have a brand that is noticeable, that is reputable, that is when you see the logo, you know what it is, right? And, if you look at industries or other industries, especially like companies that have been massive already, they've already secured those top ladder positions already. They already have that solidification. Their ads are not even trying to sell anymore. Like, that's not even what the ads are for. The ads are strictly just to say, hey, you know who we are. We've been here for years. This is our name. You know it. And so next thing you know, you're driving down the street, you see a pull out, and you're like, oh wait, McDonald's. I know who that is. I don't need to think about that anymore. I'm gonna go to McDonald's over whatever else is there.
Like worldwide, right? Like
Precisely.
people know McDonald's. I mean, there's McDonald's in Japan,
exactly,
in Russia,
right?
like everywhere.
Exactly. And so that is the type of ladder position blue collar industries need to be securing. That is the place you need to be, because that's exactly what's going to influence those people who accept those bids. That's how you're going to get direct influence into that psychology, right?
Well, and this is kind of like we dive into this with our other services too, right? And like every one of our 5 divisions is to solidify that brand. Like when we develop like a media platform, and that's photos, videos, managing your social media, whatever that is. Like one of the reasons why we post so actively on our clients' pages is because we want people to see their name, their logo, their branding every single day. It doesn't matter if it's just a photo or it's a video, like that name is being ingrained and seared into their mind every single time they open a social media platform. And when somebody thinks utilities, they think of this company. Or when somebody thinks paving, they think of this company. Or when somebody thinks mining, they think of this company, right? And so when somebody brings that up into discussion, their first thought is going to be the one that they've seen the most of or recognized, the most. And so video plays a unique part in that. The branding that we do with these companies helps build that as well. And one thing that's cool about that is we can take the branding and focus really heavily on like your character and your, like, what makes you, what makes the company them, and then ingrain that into their people. And then their people reflect that out in the public, and all of it mixes, right, between the branding, the website, the videos. Once you have it all right in the puzzle, like you can actually see a clear picture of who this company is, rather than like, in my opinion, there's a lot of companies out there that are just taking content and throwing it at the wall, hoping it's going to stick, and it's not. It just won't. And they need to have all pieces of the puzzle, and they need to be doing it consistently for them to actually have that brand name and that brand equity built.
100%, right? So. And I mean that's what every other industry has done.
Yeah,
that's exactly what every other industry has done. They've created all of these assets, right? Websites, logos, videos, copyright, SEO, all of it, right? Everything. Yeah. And they've done it over such a long period of time that nowadays you don't need much introduction to something like Apple. You don't need much introduction to Nike. You know what that is, right? Or Gatorade, that's a great one, right? The first time you think I'm sports and I'm thirsty, Gatorade. That is the first thing anyone ever thinks about.
Well, it's funny too, because like even if you're out there and you're like, oh, give me some Gatorade, it could be Powerade. You still call it Gatorade.
It's like they've done such an amazing job at staying on that top ladder, right? Being that first thing that pops in your mind.
How did they do that?
With everything that we've discussed. Video, website, branding, Instagram, everything, constantly. Not only that, but before those things were fully established, they were also doing the exact same thing. It's all marketing.
Well, that's the thing. It's like when you think Gatorade, typically you think of like one of those like high-paced action videos with somebody that's sweating bullets, right? Yep. And they just pick up a can of Gatorade or a bottle of Gatorade and start to drink it, right? Like that's the typical advertisement. But that's the thing is that's done like everybody recognizes Gatorade, and they probably could view in their head what one of their adadvertisements would look like.
Precisely, right? And that's insanity. That's crazy, right?
That like burnt that into people's
mind. That's crazy that we've burned that. Like we've ditched out water in a lot of cases. But it's solely because every single thing that you've seen from them has those key factors. You have a sport, you have someone sweating, you have someone who's an athlete or whatever, and then they drink the Gatorade.
Yeah.
And then that's it, right? And so that's the exact same model that blue-collar industries need to follow because it works, right? Yeah. It doesn't take the exact same shape, right? We don't need someone sweating. We don't need someone out of sport. None of that. But the exact same association with, let's say, a contractor, right? They see a contractor, they think something, right?
Well, and honestly, like I've been really proud of the work that we've done with Dow Dirt because we've worked with them for 3+ years now.
Yeah.
And like I meet people across the nation that are like, oh yeah, we see the work with Dow Dirt all the time. And it's like, well, how do they see that? Like it's through social media, it's through videos, it's through photos. And like the logo that we've created for them is plastered on their equipment everywhere. Now, I mean, like, there's always places to improve. They're still a growing company. We're still here to help, improve them as much as possible. But, like, when you look at the content and what we've put out there, people recognize them all over the nation.
Yeah, 100%. So. They see it. It's out there. It's constant. And that's what's really going to solidify that, right? Yeah. That's the first thing I think about, to be honest, is when I every single time we talk about, like, other people's websites, I'm all like, oh yeah, Dow Dirt's website's pretty clear. Because that's I don't know. I just have a heavy association with Dow Dirt and construction, not only because, it was kind of like my first introduction, I guess you can say. I remember you talking about Dow Dirt when I first started, and it's like that's kind of carried on for so long, and I know who they are, I know what they do. That was the first thing I learned about what they did. I never knew what moisture conditioning was until Dow Dirt showed me, and now Dow Dirt's the only thing I associate with that.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the type of consistency that needs to get pushed out there with with all the blue collar stuff, and it's important nowadays because, as we've discussed, like there's an ongoing issue about how the older generation that used to run things on lack of marketing and handshake deals. That's about to leave, right? Like that's not going to be around
in the next 5-10 years.
That's not going to be around, right? And what's going to be around is a bunch of these younger new guys who grew up with digital identities, right, for their whatever, right? They rely on digital identities to identify who you are, to identify what you do, why you do it. These are things that are very important to establish some type of brand identity. And so it's like, if I don't see, if I'm out there and I'm trying to look for a service or a product and I click on someone's website and it's like HTML, bro, are you serious? Like I ain't buying anything from that. It's like I need a website that looks good, that functions well, that looks clean, that has a consistent flow to it, that has updated pictures, because that's like That's like going to a store and you see everything nice and tidy, everything nice and neat, pulled apart. Everything's pressed, ironed. All the people working there has their suits and ties on or whatever. Everything is clean, everything is set up nice, and like that is very helpful in making that decision.
Well, I think one of the key aspects here is the fact of like ease of access, right? Like we're so pushed nowadays to get things done fast, and to do that we need ease of access, right? So like when we're looking for information, it needs to be right there when we look for it. And so like when you pull open a website that's old and it's like really small text and you got to put on your glasses and it's like paragraphs after paragraphs of just talking about their company.
Yeah, I ain't reading that.
And there's no representation. Like I can get an aspect of who you are by seeing graphics and like pictures and things like that are on the website. Not only that, I mean, obviously there's videos and there's still, there still is copy and text, but it's in a design, that UI UX design where like naturally it's going to flow in your head based on what you're looking at, right? Like it's appealing on a psychological level where you're not just going to bounce right off that page.
Precisely.
And the same thing in video and content is, if you're putting out really crappy content, people are not going to watch it. People are not going to look at it. They're going to bounce off your page instantly. I mean, that's what I do when I see since we're trying to sell these services, like I look at those companies as an opportunity, but if I'm trying to buy their product, I'm off that page because it's too messy, it's too cluttered.
Yeah, exactly. So. And it's you can have an amazing service, right? You can have an amazing product, but if you don't market yourself correctly, cleanly, like not many people are gonna recognize. And I the best way I can compare this to is with video, right? Because that's the kind of that's like the niche that I'm really knowledgeable about. I can see someone sell a $50,000 video, and I'm sitting there like, wow, like there's so many key inconsistencies in the video structurally when I look at it. Like there's blown out highlights and things that shouldn't be blown out or whatever. Yeah. Like the image quality is decent, the flow of it could use a lot of work. It's not $50,000 worthy in my head at least, right? And then like it's filmed on whatever, but that person made the sale.
Well, and you got to think too, like that brings up another topic where it's like not all video, not all content is like apples to apples, right? Yeah. Like we see a lot of people out there that might be to like the general consumer eye, hey, this is pretty decent video, but like to the professionals that have done this for a while and understand like the quality difference, you can look at stuff and be like, oh man, that's really not. Why? Like nitpick a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why we nitpick as professionals is because it goes back to that psychological level, right? Like you messaged a buddy the other day on one of our videos and he said, hey, what do you think of this? And he just made one little tiny tweak that was like, this just doesn't, I think it was like the scene was like half a second too long.
Yeah.
And it was like, it just doesn't flow with the rest of it. Like on a mental level, you don't think, oh, I want to watch this anymore.
Yeah.
And we changed that one little tiny detail, sliced like half a second off that, and it changed the entire video.
100%.
Like being able to spot that stuff and then recognize like a $500 video with a professional might be a really good video, but he's probably not charging $500. But you go and you spend $100,000 on a video, you've got actors, you've got a studio crew, you've got expensive cameras, you've got days of setting up lighting, location rentals, all sorts of stuff that would go into something on a higher scale. And when we talk to blue collar companies, obviously they're not paying $100,000 per video because they don't need all of that, right? Yeah. They need you to come out and they need you to show off their business and explain in a manner that's suitable for those who they're trying to sell to and attract also employees. So like it makes sense that they're not hiring that out unless you're like a large manufacturer of a specific niche product that you want to get out there, and in which case we'll hire actors and stuff like that to come out and do that on site.
I mean, if you have, and it all comes down to production budget, right? Like low production versus high production stuff. Now, low production stuff, it does what it does. It's low production, I suppose. Like we talked about, you have those types of inconsistencies. But when we get into why low production stuff is kind of in that zone of being low production, is because every single person has some unwritten language when they watch anything that has to do with video. It's odd when you think about it. Like you watch a movie and for some reason you know the language of it. You can't put it to words, but you feel weird when something's off in a movie. Like you feel it. It
like
takes
when
you
a
out.
scene just doesn't make sense, you're like, that's odd.
It's like you feel it. You feel something weird about it, right? And it's those types of things that is the difference between a low budget and a higher budget production.
Well, and also I think you're kind of tapping into like some movies, right, might resonate with somebody, and other movies will resonate with somebody else. And then if you give those to the opposite party, they'll think they're weird, right? The opposite person might be like, that's a really weird movie. But the same is to be said in what we do, where we go, okay, like we have the knowledge. We've been in the construction space. You know, my entire career has been in construction and in the blue collar market, but like we understand how these things work in the blue collar industry. A lot of these guys that are out there doing filming and things like that really have never been there. They've been there for the period of how long they've been filming it. And it's great that they're out there. Like, by no means am I discouraging anybody to go out there and try to do this stuff. I love it. Because we all need to be showing off this industry a lot more.
Yeah.
But it's a big difference between somebody that has no clue what is happening on the job site versus, like I know ahead of time what's about to happen, so I've got to go film that.
Yeah.
Know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. It makes the flow a lot easier. You know, like we save time, and that's a big thing, not only for us but for the client, right? It's like, if we can do our jobs the most effectively and efficiently, why shouldn't we do that?
Well, and that's the thing is, like, if they hire us for a project and the project costs X, for somebody that doesn't understand this stuff, it might be 3 times the price or 3 times as long, because they have to step things out a little bit, longer. They're not sure of certain things.
That's if the person is actually trying to, give them the
do
best
the same product,
right?
Because same product.
If not, then they're not the content's not going to be as good, right? Because they're not going to make that extra time. That hey, I've never been in this space before. I need extra time to figure out how to make this shot look good, or how to work around these types of environments.
Exactly.
Right? And oftentimes a lower budget production, they tend to not advertise for that, right? So they go in there, they say, hey, like, this is X amount for this long, and they're like, okay, and they come out and they do that, right? And that's they did that, that's what you paid for. You paid for that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that was an equal exchange, right?
Well, I mean, a simple case scenario on this is like we understand when we show up to the job site. Typically, if we're working with a contractor and they're working for a GC, right? We've got to go meet up with that GC, check in, tell them that we're there, and sometimes, not always, but they'll put us through like a safety training video, right? Yeah. That could take anywhere from 2 minutes to 30 minutes. I've sat through some pretty intensive ones where, we allow time in the morning, before the sun is up, because we want to get those crispy sunrise shots.
Oh, golden.
Yeah, golden hour, man. We want to get that stuff. Like, we allow some time where the GC can go, hey, we need to take 30 minutes of your time and come out and do this. Like, and yeah, I mean, that's just one aspect of a lot of different challenges that you can find on site. But at least being able to hire somebody that understands those little nuances in the industry is really important.
And I mean, don't even get me wrong about safety. Like, that's another thing.
Yeah, walking out there with no PPE. I've seen people walk, like media guys walk out on site with no PPE.
That's a hassle.
Like shorts and flip flops.
And not only that, but what can they film? That's another big thing, because that's something I've noticed where a lot of blue collar companies and people in this industry, they're a little bit hesitant, and because the media hasn't been too nice to them over the past, right?
Well, yeah, we've tried getting with a few oil companies and railroad companies and mining companies that were specifically like, no, because we've had somebody come in here and hide, like, come in here and tell us they're going to show this stuff off. They get in there and then they start like tearing the company apart.
Yeah,
and that's really sucky. But
100%.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, and that's wild, right? Like, that's absolutely insanity. And so I can see why it could turn some folks away from it. Like, safety is a big thing, and that could be also another thing is, someone on a lower budget may not know the nuances of OSHA, may not know the nuances of, hey, because I know when you've seen, you're like, hey, like this clip, they need to get this clip changed, and we go get that clip changed, right? Like, because for this thing, like, that needs to get changed, right? Yeah. And so you point out, and you're all like, okay, hold up for this. We're going to communicate this, and we're going to get this clip changed. And it's like, okay, so let's get this clip changed.
Well, and a lot of times, like, a lot of times you try to catch that stuff in the field, right? Our thing is, like, we understand a lot of times not every company can be safe 100% of the time, right? So there's that aspect to it. When we're on site, we'll typically tell them, hey, put your safety glasses on. Hey, put gloves on, you're cutting. Hey, you need to tie off here and not there, right? Like we'll educate them on the safety, which I think is one of our highlights is that like while I'm on the job site, like I'm OSHA trained. I've been in the industry for a while. I know what to look for, and we try to train that in all of our guys too. But if we can, we'll try to get them to fix that right away so that we can film it. If we can't get them to fix that right away, we'll still film it, but we're not going to use it unless there's an application where we need to, right? So like we'll let the company know. But yeah, we'd rather film it and then not have to use it than to not film it and miss a crucial part of the video.
Yeah, I mean, and there's also layers to this type of stuff. Like you have that first initial, hey, like something may be happening here. We could either get it changed, clip it, or once we get to post-production, here's another big aspect, another filter that it goes through, right? Another quality assurance that it goes through, right? Where it's like, okay, we watched the video. Is there something we missed? And if there's something we missed, we have to either change it or talk to the company about it. Like, what can we do with this clip, right? That way you can assure that whatever's getting posted out there is exactly what,
Yeah,
and
to the standard too. Like, when we think of OSHA is the baseline, right? Like that's the bare minimum. And so a lot of times we have to figure out what the client has as their safety policy too, because OSHA might say, oh yeah, you can go without this, but the company might have a policy that says, no, we have to go with this. Yeah. And so to understand also your client's safety policy is really important. And then to actually study that before you go out in the field and start filming this stuff.
For sure.
I think it's also really good to have one of their representatives there just in case, right? Like we might not catch everything, but to at least catch, what we can, and then have their representative there too. So we work pretty closely with company safety policy and company safety personnel.
And that's just like layers and filters that you're only going to get with a higher production, right? Yeah. It's like the lower production stuff is obviously that takes time. That takes time, that takes effort, and time and effort is going to cost more money, right? Yeah. But it's gonna save you a lot of headaches, truly. Like with lower production stuff, it does its purpose, I guess. But
everybody's that we work with are contractors or general contractors or whatever, but like they understand this because they have the same complaints with their clients. A lot of times it's like, hey, look, like you hired the low bid on this, and now you're actually costing you money, right? Mm-hmm. If you hire the low bid on like a utility contractor, I mean, we've had it times where people have installed stuff completely wrong, and then you go, we've got to rip all of that back up, and then it's like, okay, well, you as the GC didn't catch it, so it's like half of your problem too. So like, again, there's a lot of money that goes into mess ups on the construction job site. Same with this side of the world and advertising your business. If you're not paying for the quality work, you may be spending more money than you think you are in the long run. But I think we'll get past this because we've been talking about it for a while, but we've kind of talked about, what we've seen as far as like why the industry needs it, the video and stuff like that. We've talked about some of the important aspects as far as like looking out for a correct contractor that can, you can have film your company. What are some things that some do's and don'ts, Bryan, that you see all the time, and then some trends that we hate? I know we've talked about the trends that we hate all the time, especially on social media. We hope they change, but right now I don't see any.
So do's and don'ts of like video?
Yeah, so like I think just things that we've seen contractors do that we're like, oh, that's not good. Things that we've seen contractors do that are like, oh yeah, that's really good for you. And then also like just the annoying nuances of managing your social media with video content.
Here, get the ball rolling. Remind me of one of them. And
well, so like obviously like you and I hate vertical video.
Oh man. Oh, so that's what you mean.
That's what I mean, dude. So like, man. Like I still love horizontal video. It gives more of a feeling to the video. It gives more style and character, and kind of like opens up that the world to like somebody watching the video. Yeah. And then as soon as you crop it down to like a vertical size, oh man, it just takes away so much of the story.
It's not like the whole reason why we even had the 1920 by 1080 format, the 16 by 9 format, is because that's how our eyes kind of work. Yeah. They don't work vertically like that. They don't work up and down like that. They work horizontally. So it's like when you record a video horizontally, that's what's going to give you the most
natural.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what's going to really involve you into that. Vertically, oh man, filling the phone screen, it takes a lot out of the shots, and it hurts me every single time I have to do it. But unfortunately,
Dude, it's just funny because it's like, I don't know if it's just because of younger people getting on social media, but like, I mean, you and I are still fairly young, but like not, I guess, as young as some of these other ones. I don't know. Maybe their eyes are looking for. I have no idea, but I don't know why it became a thing all of a sudden. But
It's because people like their phone screens to be filled, and that's the main source that people are watching from.
yeah,
But it's like you can, if it's crazy. I was with somebody who was taking clips, and I was showing him how to use a camera a little bit, and he took a bunch of clips, and I was like, yeah, it looks great, doesn't it? Oh, man, it looks awesome.
switch.
And then I switched it into vertical. He was like, man, what happened to all my clips? I was like, yeah, bro, that's what they do to you.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy that they take away all of it from you? It's
Yeah,
crazy.
like took all of your style is
It
gone
took
now.
all of it. It just took the whole thing from you.
Yeah.
So
Well, and then you've got to rethink like how to shoot that stuff too.
yeah.
So like, I mean, a lot of times we'll try to film both, right? So like when we work with the client, try to film some content for social media, just B-roll content and things like that. And then other times we'll be filming for, a purpose. And
Yeah.
the purpose is always horizontal, but like the social media stuff is typically vertical. Yeah, but that's annoying. But like I think some do's and don'ts, like especially on social media, we see a lot of contractors that, and I posted about this the other day. It was, they'll just take a random drone video that's like very shaky.
Oh man.
And they'll
yeah, I've
slap an
seen that.
advertisement on it, like they'll pay for that.
I've seen
And,
it, I've
and
seen
then
it.
you've got all these weird videos rolling around where it's like a contractor that's paid, I don't know, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars for an ad on Instagram for the next 7 days, and they think it's gonna blow up because they're spending money on it, but it's not gonna blow up
At the
because
end
it's
of
just a crappy video.
And at the end of the day, it's like money is the shortcut when it comes to ads. Like, oh, I could save a lot of time letting it grow, or I can just spend a couple money to get some ads. And sure, you might get some responses, right? But at the end of the day, in the long run, you are losing money doing this. 100% you are losing money doing this. If you do not have a proper strategy set in place to run an actual ad, you will be spending more money running the shaky drone video ad with no structure, no actual purpose, no campaign. That's why they call it campaigns, right? None of that. You're going to be spending more money getting smaller results when you can spend less money and getting more results with an actual well-structured ad.
Yeah.
And so that's a
Well, you got to think too, like organic growth works great if you have the right structure in your video.
precisely.
So like we always say, okay, let it run organically for a while and see how it does. And then after it's run organically for a while, then that's when you can be like, okay, let's pay for advertising this specific video that's got a purpose and a structure to it.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, just random videos and photos out there just with an advertising, people what they just don't understand how or what to do when they put stuff on social media. And so to educate people is the main purpose, right? If you're in a business, you're trying to educate people about your services. You're trying to educate people about why they want to work there. You're trying to educate people on, where you work and things like this. Like you've got to take those, I guess what would you call it? Just like a specific detail about your business and then teach somebody about that through the content. And then sure, if after that, if you've done that effectively, then you can put an ad on it. But
Yeah, I mean, like, the key thing about it is that you have to have some planning for that, right? If your thought process was, hey, oh, here's a video, here's something, put it on an ad, that's already the wrong recipe. Like
Yeah.
you're going to be spending more money on it, 100%. If your process was, hey, let's talk about what we need to film,
yeah,
what the message is, what is our main goal, like what do we want this to accomplish? If those are the types of questions that came up before you started anything, then that's more likely to lead in the right direction.
I mean, it kind of boils down to is like it's almost like they're trying to like click an easy button, right? And
Yeah.
just like all of a sudden get views and conversions.
Yeah.
And like you can't do that. Like you're still gonna have to put the work in no matter what. Like we always, we say that we're gonna take all this work on for the client, but at the same time we need their cooperation. If we can't get them to cooperate or coordinate or anything like that, and they're just like hoping that we're gonna get everything correct, like yeah, but we need to make sure that we're coordinating this stuff with you. So it can't be all willy-nilly thrown together and then it work. Like you still need to work at advertising your business. Another thing is like when we talked, most of the contractors that we talk to on a regular basis have no budget or any clue on how to budget for advertising their business at all.
Yes.
They might not even allocate funds towards advertising. The big companies, we just got off a phone call yesterday with one of our bigger clients, and they're like, yeah, we've already allocated X amount of money for the next year, for the next fiscal year.
Genius.
And it's it's plenty of money. That'll be great.
Genius.
Which is very nice because then we know what to work with, right? We know where their limitations are. And we're like, okay, cool. That means we can do this type of a strategy for you guys. Companies that are smaller on the scale will typically not have a budget allocated for filming or advertising their company. Every other industry does.
Not only every other industry, almost every other company on the planet does.
Yeah.
That is like one of the key fundamental components of
a business.
Corporations and business, 100%. Like that's where you need to be, because that's where every single successful business is at.
Well,
they have that budget allocated.
There's a line item, right? So like when you look at like starting a business and you look at some budgeting, like at the very beginning of starting a business, you've got operational budgets, you've got payroll, you've got equipment costs, you've got all sorts of stuff that you're allocating money for. Like just part of that is marketing, right? Even if starting out you don't have that much money, you need to allocate some towards that.
Yeah.
And people do. They don't realize that they do. They take their own time and allocate their own time. Well, that's still allocating a budget. You just don't have it written down.
Exactly.
And you need to write the stuff down in your business planning. And I don't know. There's different stages of different companies. We work with all of them. Yeah. From the one guy out there trying to run a company with a skid steer to a company that has 10,000 employees. Like we work with all of them and everybody in between. And so that's one of the challenges I think you and I've run into is like it's a fun challenge, but trying to figure out how to effectively advertise their business on the amount of money that they've already allocated or that they can spend on advertising.
100%. So. And it's like that is something that is absolutely vital, 100%. And it doesn't matter if you're like brand new, like look at what you have, look at what you're bringing in, and allocate something. Right?
Yeah.
Something. Start that practice early so that once you scale, you've already had that practice installed. You don't have to make room for it somewhere. You're like, oh man, like I'm already halfway through this race. I'm already growing huge. I had to allocate X amount to whatever,
Yeah.
Start somewhere and start building it up, see how much you can do. Start slow if that's really where you want to start, or if you're already at this spot where you can allocate a lot or a decent amount or whatever, right? Then dump it in there and watch how much that can help your company grow.
Well, and then circle back to that value add, right? Like where we were talking in the beginning is like if you've allocated that amount of money or you've got a budget in your mind, okay, now is the time to start looking at those different types of companies and really have them explain their process to you. I think if they can't explain their process and they don't really have a reason or a purpose behind what they're actually developing for you, then that's probably not the right type of person. They need to have a reason why they're doing what they're doing. And it should make sense. It should make sense. Like when we discuss our process, which we're about to dive into with our clients, like logically it makes sense. This is how people think.
Yeah.
And so a lot of, and you can't blame them. A lot of these content creators out there are just that. They're creating content and they don't really have a system in place. They don't really have the reason why. And they're just putting out content, which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with just putting out raw content.
Yeah.
But you start leveling the game when you start building strategy into it. So I think next we should probably dive into like how we look at companies' goals and how we funnel videos. So like dive into like, the way that we've discussed that with clients as far as how we funnel videos.
Yeah, so it all depends. It all starts with goals. Like that's like probably the first thing. You look at your company, you say, you know what? I want to get my brand in front of as many people as possible. Not necessarily conversions, right? I just want people to know what my name is, right? Whatever X company. So that's my goal, okay? So then they communicate that goal with someone like us or, who's doing this for them. And that person should immediately start to, okay, with this goal, what can we create video content-wise, video asset-wise, digital asset-wise that can help them push to this goal?
Well, explain what a digital asset is, because we try to we use this term a lot, and then we have to explain it to those who we work for.
Yeah.
For a good reason. They just don't know what we mean by it.
Yeah. So a digital asset is almost exactly how it sounds. What is an asset? An asset is something that brings you money, something that saves you time, something that you can constantly rely on to do those types of things. Saves you money or it brings you money or saves you time. Right. That's perfect. If I need, let's say, my lawn is all messy, right? I can spend the time going with a knife, cutting all this stuff, right? How much time is it going to take me with a little small kitchen knife cutting that all up? When I can invest in something like a lawnmower which is an asset that I could use to then save me all that time and speed up the process of doing it. Take it a step further, hire somebody else to do that, right? Like that's what an asset does for you. It returns your investment with something, either time or money, right? Yeah. And so digital assets do the exact same thing. They are a piece of something that you can buy with your money that will save you time or bring you in money, right? Yeah. And so that's what those are. And they take the form of many types of things: photographs, websites, brand logos, videos, all of those things that could be created to bring in money or save you time.
Well, and like you say this all the time, is like these things are working for you 24/7.
24/7, 365 days a year. That's the craziest thing about it, right? And so when we talk about how these things function, that's how they do it.
Yeah.
And that's the genius part, because no longer are you, if we're looking at back at that lawnmower example, no longer is my person who mows my lawn, they work within a certain time frame, right? Oh, he can only do this, so my asset can only function within this time frame, right? But with digital assets, it is 24/7 all the time, and and it can be viewed, shared, or liked, or passed around.
Well, and it can, not that you are selling your services all over the world, but it could be seen anywhere across the world,
it could,
right? So like,
right? If that's what your goal is.
How's this on YouTube? How's this on your website? How's this on your social media? And the possibilities are endless. Like, who might see you is a big deal, and the fact that that's there 24/7. Like, and we talked about this, and you're about to dive into it, I'm sure, but like, when you go and you introduce yourself to somebody on the street or somebody in a conference that you're trying to sell your services to, like, take that time that you would go and try to sell your services or have sales do this. Like, a lot of people invest in their salesmen.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars per salary on good salesmen. You can spend a fraction of that cost to develop a digital salesman for you. And not that reduces the need for your salesman, but it's just an added bonus to have that, I guess, digital asset working for your salesman to help land them, right?
It's a complementary relationship.
It's complementary.
Right? It's like if we're talking more in that realm, like that is one digital asset. It is like the video business card, you can kind of refer it to as, and it mimics the exact same fundamental structure of going to a networking event, a word of mouth, anything like that, right? All that old style. That is the reason why it's so effective. That's the reason why it's so good at what it's doing, right? Because all it's doing is just mimicking what has been done for years of how businesses get made. You go up to someone, whether a networking event, whether it's a word of mouth, or even like someone else goes up to somebody. They say, this is who I am. This is very bare bones structure, by the way. Yeah. Who I am, what it is that I do, and why do I do what I do, right?
Yeah, like, how can I solve your problem?
Precisely, right? You pose all these things to them in a meeting, and then you say, okay, here's my business card, shake hands, and you leave. And they call you back up. They're like, hey, you know how we talked about this, X, Y, and Z? Like, tell me a little bit more about that. And then there's that first meet, right? So the video business card is that digitalness.
And to take that even further, right? Once we've developed something as first impression as a digital business card, then when they call you back and they want more information, right? They might look at that digital business card on a video, and then the next one that's suggested to them, it has all the answers to the questions that they were just about to ask you.
Now we're talking about the funnel.
And now we're talking about the funnel.
These are all the components of the sales funnel, right? It's exactly how you would imagine a funnel. You put your oil in your car with the funnel. It's the exact same process, right? It has the exact same shape. The top of the shape is the advertisement, right? That is the thing that is the narrative story, the compellingness, the emotions, all that kind of stuff that sell you on, wow, what did I just watch? This is amazing. Let me click on this, right? It piques the interest. It has that hook. They click on it, they pique that interest. It has that hook. It brings them in. The first thing they see is a video business card. This is who I am. This is what I do, and this is why I do it. Very bare bones structure, right? Yeah. This is the problems I solve. This is how I solve them. Is this of interest to you? The person's like, wow, like that's super interesting, right? Now, instead of calling, hey, tell me more about what you do, the next thing that comes up is their services, right?
Well, and what is that doing? That's saving the company time.
Precisely.
That they would be explaining that to the client.
The way
and not to reduce the fact that, like, in-person discussion is really important to a business, right? Having that face-to-face, that personal touch is extremely important. But this at least gives an eye-opening aspect to people about your business before they even reach out to that face-to-face.
Precisely, right? And this is why it's complementary, because at any stage this person's in the funnel, they can give a call and talk to a person. Yeah. They can talk to a salesman. They want that type of personal interaction. They can pick up the phone and call, right?
Yeah.
At any stage. But having this set up is perfect, because the next one that comes after the video business card is if they don't call and they're just in this rabbit hole, right, or this funnel.
Yeah.
The next stage is services, where they go deep dive into, here are all the services what we provide, this is where we provide them. Here's all this information. You're answering all their questions. Maybe there's some questions that don't get answered, right? And that's the FAQ video. Right?
Yeah, and it's interesting that we're talking about this right now, but like I just downloaded the First Form app, and I've been working through that because I'm trying to learn more about the app. So I had a bunch of questions, right? And in the app, they have a personal trainer or somebody that's going to advise you, like a personal advisor, right? And the first thing she did was she took a video right then and there while I think she was on the treadmill or something this morning. She said, "Hey, Forrest, great to see you on the app, blah, 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 blah. Here's the, I'm about to send you some questions, and then this will be the process afterwards." And then she went away. Like, the information just was laid out in a video, and now I've got all the questions that I was curious about pretty much answered. And it's probably saved a ton of time of like typing.
Right?
And
100%.
again, that's just like a bare bones like example, but it just dawned on me that this morning, like I got that video, and I was able to watch that this morning when I was doing my workout, and like, cool. Well, it's good to know who I'm talking to, and it personalized it. It was just kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah,
so.
And that's the funnel at work. And a big key point of the funnel as well is the testimonial. Like, that's the one that's hilarious to me, because it's always so funny when I hear reasons why people bought things. Right? It's always hilarious to me. It's like, what made you buy this one thing? It's like, it's because my buddy bought it, and I'm just like. So testimonials, that's crazy. So it's like having that as a key point of your funnel is what goes from the ad, the wide receiver, like the wide thing, the one that bringing just a bunch of people in, to the video business card, to the people who are actually interested. Like, okay, interested. So then it funnels it deeper to the services video, right, where they learn more about you. To the FAQ, have all their questions answered. To the testimonials, all my buddies bought this or whatever. All these other folks did it, so it must be great.
Yeah.
There it is. That's the funnel. Now we've provided all the information as easy as possible, right, for someone who is interested, who didn't even know you existed, to be notified that you exist, to then learn more about you, to then have all their questions answered, to then see all the folks that have also done it and have also loved it, right, to then the button that says, here's a call or find a quote or whatever, right? That's the funnel. And the best part about it is that if nothing happened, at least someone learned about you.
Well, exactly. And that's that seed, right? You've planted that seed. Exactly. And again, if they never call you, that seed's already been planted. I mean, I'm going to say free of charge, but like obviously you invested into that process, but like you planted that seed through that investment. And that's a seed that might come back in a year to come, 2 years to come, 3 years to come. It doesn't matter. But at least it's there. They've recognized the name. They've learned a little bit about you, and it's a possible sale or a possible connection, right? So, yeah, and they could have done that at midnight.
At midnight, at any point,
in the weekend.
It's your best salesman's best pitch and best take, 24/7, always on hand, always available, and you can put it anywhere. You can put it anywhere.
We've been talking about this mostly about like selling your services to a client. The same is true when you're trying to sell your business to new employees, right? Like it's
just a different market.
It's just a different funnel, right? So like we've got, it's everything that we've talked about correlates exactly the same with trying to hire people and trying to bring more people into the blue collar industry. Because ultimately that's one of the main missions for Eagle Eye is to advertise and bring an interest back to the blue collar market so that people are really wanting to come work over in the blue collar industries. A lot of people are going to leave in the next few years. There are a lot of young folks that are looking at the blue collar industry as a viable career option. Salaries are going up. The cost of construction work is going up, obviously. The need is going up. Like, it's a very exciting industry right now. Like, it might crash. Like, we might have a lot of issues on our hands in the near future, but it's an exciting time to get into the industry if you haven't gotten into it. And businesses who are not utilizing advertising for that space in the industry they're making a big mistake, because their company won't survive if nobody knows about them.
Exactly. Right. I mean that's most companies.
Yeah.
That's why marketing is vital. And nowadays it just looks like here's a better way to put it. I forgot who says this, but I don't know. Maybe they'll copyright me for this. I don't know. I don't even get copyright quote.
I don't know.
It's like we live currently in the consumer's time market, right? And the person who controls the most of the consumer's time is the one that gets the most sales, the biggest slice of the pie, right? Like that's where we live. Attention market. There you go. The one who capitalizes the most
on somebody else's
attentions. That's who's going to get the bigger piece of the pie.
Yeah,
right? Because it's like people have really short attention span these days, right? It's crazy, right? But it's like if we control the most of that attention, that is the most. We will get the bigger slice of the pie. 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Hands down.
Yeah, I mean it's just logical, right? And it like, you know, whether that's selling your company services or showing your company off to a potential employee, it doesn't matter. It goes hand in hand.
They're all the same. So. It's all markets. They just look different.
Yeah. Well, dang, we covered a lot.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to touch on? We didn't really have a structure for this. We just kind of ran with it. And I think it worked out well.
To talk about, so
hopefully we gave enough information, or at least a wealth of knowledge for the listeners to take back and utilize in their business. That was kind of the goal of this, is to kind of give insight into like how to utilize video and marketing and branding and all of these little pieces, but primarily the video aspect and how they can use that to attract more talent, attract more clients, build their company, hopefully allocate some funds towards this.
Yeah, please. Make marketing budgets. I promise it'll help.
And strategize.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, you got anything else?
No.
Did that just turn off?
That one just had a high temp warning.
High temp warning.
Yeah, I watched it.
Well, all right. So we've got a camera that's about to go overheat on us. So on that note, I think we'll end it. Thanks, Bryan. If you guys did enjoy the podcast, please share it and let us know what you think. Comment on it. And we're going to try and do some more of these now that we've got the setup. Hopefully the videos are doing good. We'll go back to the studio or back to post, check it out, and see how it looks. So thanks, guys, for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.